Today we're talking 5 whiskeys that I'll be sipping throughout the holiday season and 5 that I think you may want to consider sipping on as well. Let's do this. So first out of the gate, and the tone setter for the holiday season for me is a very easy sipper. This is the Michter's Small Batch US1 Bourbon. This guy comes in, I mean, this is an easy sipping 91.4 proof bourbon, is one that's easy to get you into wanting to enjoy other bourbons, ryes, whatever it may be. But for me, the Michter's Small Batch somehow seems to get downplayed. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that it's lower proof, but I think overall what this bourbon has to offer at its price point of maybe that $45-ish range, for the most part readily available, is a great bourbon to go to early, share with friends, with family. It offers up a great value, tremendous flavor profile. And again, I think it's one that you definitely need to be considering sipping on throughout the holiday season. So let's move over to the next suggestion and see what that has to offer. Maker's 46, tried and true French oak staved finished bourbon whiskey. I think for what this has to offer, those pastry notes, nice light fruit notes, great spice, it's a really fantastic wheated bourbon, and one that I think goes well with a lot of things. So if you're kind of getting into some appetizers or, you know, early on in the evening, I definitely think you need to consider the Maker's 46 French oak stave bourbon. It's a great everyday sipping kind of bourbon. One for me that's a tendency to kind of go to a lot because I can reach for it, I can sip on it, I know exactly what it's gonna bring for me. And I think this is something that you may want to also consider sipping on throughout the holiday season. Now let's step it up a little bit. We're gonna get a little crazy here. So I think for me, now we're moving into a rye category. This just happens to be from Sagamore Spirits, their double oak rye whiskey. When I first tried this, even going back probably last year or the year before, I knew like right away how much of a favorite rye whiskey this was gonna be. This offers up, I think for me, the balance of a whiskey that both a bourbon and rye drinker can enjoy. The double oak on this does absolute wonders to this rye whiskey. Fruit notes, chocolates, espresso, beautiful balance. How they've kind of crafted this double oak rye whiskey, for me, probably hands down one, if not my favorite double oak rye whiskey that's out there. I think for what it is that they have to offer, and to kind of pair this with some really nice appetizers, sitting down, wanting to enjoy something, this offers up, again, I think for maybe someone who hasn't had it, is definitely a rye whiskey that needs to be shared for others to kind of enjoy. And again, this for me is something that offers up all of that. So it makes it something slightly different and unique that maybe a lot of your friends or family have not had the opportunity to try, and you'll get to kind of see their reaction. I wouldn't hesitate to share this rye whiskey one bit with any of your friends, family, pair it, do a lot of really fun things with it. Again, this is a Sagamore double oak. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one as well. Let's bring some heat. Let's go with 1792 Full Proof. Now, the nice part about the 1792 Full Proof is over probably the last couple years, it has become more readily available. Now, I know it's not going to necessarily be available in every single market or every single place you go, but it has become more popular and more readily available. And for me, this is a bourbon that I have a tendency to go to quite a bit. I know exactly what it has to offer. It's a great age. The profile of it for me works fantastically. And again, I think it's still slightly undervalued, maybe not talked about or enjoyed nearly enough. But again, at 125 proof, if you're in an area that has some cold temperatures like mine, this is something that just eases the soul. It's easy to drink. Again, it's gonna bring some heat that's there to it. Very warming. But again, the 1792 Full Proof for me in terms of what it has to offer just as a bourbon on its own. Those tried and true bourbon notes, the vanillas, the caramels, great spice, really nice oak on it, all done beautifully. It's just a great batched product from Barton 1792. So if it's something that you either consider or maybe pass up for whatever reason, don't hesitate to reach for a 1792 Full Proof. I think for what it has to offer, and maybe even pairing these with some really nice kind of meats, I think between the spice and the proof will kind of work really hand in hand, or work really well with those foods that you're kind of pairing. And if you're not concerned with pairing, you've got a great bourbon on its own at 125 proof, great flavor profile, fairly readily available for the most part. So don't hesitate to reach for a 1792 Full Proof. So what do we have coming up next? Something that a lot of you have tried in the past, but for me is maybe one of the more unique whiskeys that are out on the market today. So my final whiskey for what I'm sipping on for the holidays is none other than the Barrel Seagrass. This is maybe one of the most unique, interesting whiskeys on the market today, period. What this has to offer in terms of a rye whiskey that is finished in rum, Madeira, apricot, brandy barrels makes this something that is easy to reach for, also fairly readily available. I see it in a lot of markets that I go to, which is nice because it is that unique, that different, enjoyable. And for me, it's kind of a conversation type of whiskey. And even for the people who've had this prior, there's always something that's interesting about it that brings out a little extra something in that whiskey that maybe you hadn't had before. Now, for the person that you share this with who has not had this whiskey, this is something that will probably be a very unique kind of situation or answer that you hear from them. And it's always a whiskey that I absolutely enjoy sipping on, and will be a great whiskey because of all of those different nuances that makes it very enjoyable to kind of continue to go to. So whether this is something for yourself, you're sharing with friends or family, it offers up that unique perspective of a whiskey that I think will hit a lot of people in a lot of different ways, whether it's something that you're used to or giving it again to someone who has never had this before and kind of hearing their reaction. It makes it for a very fun whiskey, and one that I'm really excited to be sipping, during the holiday season. So there you have it, my 5 whiskeys that I'll be sipping throughout the holiday season, and hopefully that you will be too. I think all of these offer up something that's very different, unique, in addition to some of them being the tried and true, but they all have their purpose for when you're sipping, why you're sipping, who you're sipping on them with. Again, these are all whiskeys that will promote conversation, allow you to enjoy the holidays, which is the most important part, with friends and family. So I hope that you'll be enjoying, if not these 5, I'd love to hear what it is that maybe you'll be sipping on throughout the holiday season. Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another one of my reviews. Greatly appreciate all the support throughout the season. So with that being said, it's about the journey and not the destination. Happy holidays.